They're in tab 3. Yeah, what you give us. There's any... Same thing.
How are you?
Good. How's everybody? Good.
Good, my email?
Yes, very helpful, thank you.
Okay.
Guys, all set? Yeah.
Okay. The only increase, we had a lot of increases, we got mostly in salary. We'd like to go to 3 more nights a week, for two guys at night, 4 nights, to get 5 nights a week for starters. And then the incentive went up 5,000 because, as you know how that works is, once you get paid, you can't volunteer anymore. So those guys have to get paid by the hour for the state law. So we're still fishing that because we haven't done a full year with that yet.
Okay, so that's an estimation.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure how that's gonna affect the,
Right. We won't know until the end of this year.
Right. Yeah. I know how it works.
And the next 2 items were just supplies and equipment, just education bills and vehicles and gas. Just general uptick. And everything else stayed the same. Professional services, physicals, and insurance stayed the same.
Okay. You do your life insurance through VFIS?
Right. We are in the process now of getting a quote from another company.
I thought VFIS was the game in town.
it's called ESIP, and ESIP came along through a past partner of VFIS. So he's like, it's emergency services, protective insurance or something like that, or insurance protection or something. It's the only one that's out there, or one of the only ones that are out there that's comparable to VFIS. And through speaking with neighboring towns in Enfield and Ellington, the chief from Ellington, they seem to have come in a little bit cheaper than VFIS with same or better coverage. So we sat down with them on the 10th.
Yeah.
And we're waiting to hear back the proposal. We're hoping it's gonna come in. They do have a few more perks, and we're hoping that it's gonna be cheaper or stay the same. We won't know for another, he said about 10 days. That was on the 10th.
Hopefully, we're hoping to find out this week.
Yeah.
Good. So what else do you want to highlight in here?
That's all the increases, just that we were looking to get five nights a week coverage, 48 hours, 2 nights. We get a lot of calls at night. It's hit or miss, but you get a lot of fire alarms that are redundant. You get medical calls, you get lockouts, and it's getting harder and harder for a guy to get out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. He's got to go to work at 6 o'clock to go down and do this, up for an hour, he's up for the rest of the night. You know, so the guys they pick and choose. You know, if it's a fire, they're all coming out. Or a bad accident, you get a bunch of them. But the fire alarm at Park Hill at 1 o'clock in the morning, odds are it's not.
If it in fact was something, is there a second tone or anything that goes off to get
Oh,
the
yeah.
guys out of bed saying, no, really come on
Plus,
out?
it depends how it's dispatched, you can tell a lot of things. Because when you get if you get just a single call of an alarm going off, like Mill Pond, it's been going off for 3 hours. The alarm's been going for 3 hours, they need to reset it. If you get multiple calls, you got a fire. Most of the time, like the last fire we had at Mill Pond, when you come out to, there was multiple calls, that's how we got this, multiple calls.
Questions or comments?
How many fire alarm calls are you getting from Park Hill, and of course, every year?
Oh, it varies. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you. We go up there probably 4 or 5 times a month, I would say, would you?
Yeah.
I ran into you guys when I was knocking on doors, you were
Yeah.
responding to a toaster fire.
Yep.
And it's not just the Park Hill calls, it's the 235R Main Street when we provide mutual aid to Warehouse Point.
Receiving home.
Is that what
State
235
receiving
R
home.
Main Street is?
Yeah, yeah. It's the one that sits in the rear there. That's always constantly going off. There's a bunch of, I would say maybe half a dozen nuisance, Mill Pond Village, like the chief said. Alarm's been going off for 4 hours, and they're finally sick and tired of hearing, so they finally call. And they put that in the dispatch message sometimes. I'm not sure if you've noticed that, but sometimes they'll put down, been going off for a couple hours. People look at that and they're like, oh, what am I gonna get up and rush down there for something that's probably not anything, because it's been going on for a few hours.
I notice in the text messages, there's the call type that comes in, and that gives, from my layman's perspective, it gives me a pretty good handle on what it is you guys are up to. ALS is Advanced Life Support. There's a lot of those.
Yep.
That's really the only medicals we go to, unless the ambulance is out of town, and or getting a mutual aid ambulance, and then we'll go to a
Anything.
basic life support call.
Yep.
How are you doing on volunteer recruitment at this point?
We just picked up, what, two more?
We picked up 2 more. There's applications that are in for a couple more, but we're waiting on the background check through the state. We sent in a background for the state of Connecticut. They do it for us. It's more involved than, I guess, what the police do, from what I understand. The police is just local.
Right, the police can only do East Windsor, the state police can do the whole state.
Yeah,
And if they're from out of state, they have to go to each state individually.
yeah.
And you do a comprehensive background on every applicant?
We try to get at least
Yeah.
a state background check. Depends.
Those can take 3-4 weeks to get back.
No.
Well, some of them. Depends. It depends on, we gotta hand it in up here, because it costs us $75 every time we do it. So by the time it goes through the, sending it in with the check and everything, to have it done, could be a couple weeks, 3 weeks. If we hit it right, maybe a week.
Mm.
So it varies.
So what are your numbers at now?
30, you just looked at it the other night, was it like 38, 37 for just volunteers?
That's all actives?
Yeah. Well, juniors, active reserve, and then the active members.
38, I think it was.
Out of that number, though, I would say 15 and 20 are probably really active. Everybody else just, they're members that have been there for a long time. They pick and choose what they want to do for calls. They're not very active. But, when the time comes and there's a serious call, they do show up and help us out, so.
I just did this for a report I had to do. So we have 57 members, 21 are active firefighters, which are structural firefighters. 8 are active reserve members, which most of the time those guys are just setting up a rehab. They're not going into a building. We have 9 limited members, which some of them are just EMS only to respond to medical calls. They go to fires, but again, they're just setting up rehab, checking vitals.
Those are folks who have not passed firefighter one?
No, just people who don't want to be firefighters.
Yeah.
They just, hey, I don't want to do the fire part of it, I just want to help out do EMS, or
Fire
party
police.
photographer, fire police. We
Some of those
got,
drivers.
4 junior firefighters, and then 15 part-time paid staff.
15 part-time?
Sarah, did you have another question?
Yeah, so you currently have 2 paid positions 2 nights a week,
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday, and are you having trouble filling those shifts at all? No, okay. And lack of volunteers is due to sometimes them getting paid, is that what you were saying at the beginning? Or no?
You can't volunteer for the same
Right.
people that you, can't work for the same, volunteer for the same people you work for.
Like Jerry and Jimmy, they both work part-time. They're not actually volunteers anymore.
Okay.
They're actually paid employees.
Mhm.
Because by the state law, you can't volunteer your time if you're getting paid for it.
Okay.
It's kind of the state law doesn't help the volunteers.
So, I'm saying, so you guys are paid firefighters now for the town of East Windsor?
They're in the part-time pool. Of the 15 part-time firefighters that they have, they're 2 of them.
Right, they were in that pool.
Yeah.
Got it.
We still come back after the hours, but because we do that, we get our hourly rate, not the $12 per call like the incentive plan for the regular volunteers is.
So if you show up for a call during the day, then you get paid regular rate, not volunteer
If we're
rate?
working, like today I worked 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I got paid my hourly rate for the 8 hours. Now, anything after 5 o'clock, if a call comes in and I come back, I get an automatic hour. If it goes over the hour, then it goes by 15
Quarters.
minutes.
Yeah.
But if I happen, like tomorrow, I'm not working, if a call comes in during the day and I come back, I just get that hourly rate for the first hour, quarterly for anything that goes over.
And that's paid out of the incentive.
Right.
It can't be paid out, you can't pay it all the same because when you get over the hours worked
The
out.
incentive program is set up for volunteers. So if they're not considered volunteers, then why would we be taking money out of the incentive?
Well, I think,
program?
based on, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is if you're on the per diem system, you respond, you're on Tuesday. So you were on today, you respond today, you get paid out of the salary part-time line.
Right.
You're not on tomorrow, you respond tomorrow, you get paid out of a volunteer incentive program for whatever that is.
So the regular hourly rate.
Because if we go over
There's a
1,000
difference.
hours in the course of a year, then the town's required to pay us sick time, vacation time, and all
Yeah.
that. So that's why when we come back, it gets paid out of the incentive.
So if, let me just make sure that I now understand this. So if you respond to a call today, you worked today, you respond to a call today, it was a 3-hour call in terms of start to finish. You know, you're, like, if the tones go up now and you get done at 9 o'clock, you're gonna get 3 hours of your hourly pay based on
Right.
today's pay. If you respond to a call tomorrow when you're not scheduled to work, you're gonna get, assuming it's the same 3 hours, is it?
It's at what hourly rate that I...
Oh, it is?
Yeah, because you
Oh.
can't go back.
Coming out of the incentive.
I can't do the
program.
same job for less than what I get paid for, is the way the state.
Oh.
We wanted to do it. When we
Yeah, I
originally set
remember
up
that.
this whole program, we wanted to do it. You get paid your hourly rate.
Right.
And then when you come back and volunteer, you're getting paid the 12 or whatever dollars an hour it is for the volunteer incentive. State of Connecticut, you can't do that, it's against labor laws. You have, if you're doing a job for $18 an hour, when you come back, you have to get paid your $18 an hour.
But the incentive program was set up, because I was on that committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, the incentive was for strictly volunteer. And I know things have changed since it was set up, but if the criteria for that incentive program wasn't changed, then I don't know how they could be getting 15, I understand what you're saying by law,
I did change it, didn't I?
but by the
The
incentive
lawyer told us, I
program.
believe the lawyer told us that's how we had to do it.
Yeah.
It had to come out of
And the
the-
reason why we do that is so that the hours that we come back when we're not coming out of the salary don't count towards that 1,000 hours a year. Because that, we could realistically, depending on how many calls we come back to, if we hit that 1,000 hours, say, 8 months into it,
Now we
Yeah,
can't.
that was gonna be my
In
next
January.
question, is
See
anybody
you later.
bouncing up against that 1,000-hour limit?
Right.
I mean, for last year, did anybody
On the
get
town
close?
side or on the?
no, just in,
On the paid firefighter side?
No, they keep track, the treasurer's office will.
They're not allowed to work more than 2 shifts in a week,
Right.
so that they never end up over that 1,000 hours.
So, if you work your shifts, and then you come back, you can't come back?
No, they're coming back as volunteers.
Volunteers.
And those hours don't
Incentive
They don't
program.
count.
So basically, they're still getting volunteer incentive for any time they're not a paid driver. You cannot, by state law, you cannot volunteer for a position you already get paid for,
Yep.
no matter what position you
Yep.
work. So I can't be here tonight as a volunteer, as a treasurer to help you out. I already get paid as the treasurer here.
My question was, is anybody, like, how many hours, so it's
They don't
just,
keep track of hours, they keep
Just you
track
guys
of
do.
calls on the incentive program.
No, I think he's asking about the during the day.
your day shift
Yeah.
hours? Yeah.
I mean, you,
I try to schedule so it's 2 days. If somebody works 3 days a week, the following week they only might get 1. Or maybe they don't get anything. So I try and even it out the much. I do towards the end of the year, I've asked Gail for a run of, where are my guys when it comes close to the end of the year? Are they getting close to their 1,000 hours so I can start trying to...
You manage it, it's actively
Yeah,
managed.
right.
Yeah, I just, like, my concern with it would be that, you get to November and these guys tend to be the more experienced, active people, and all of a sudden, they're benched, So, and it doesn't look like that's happening, but.
We don't let anybody in town who's under that 1,000 hours get close. By about September, Gail's looking at people.
Well, and that's my concern.
Yeah. No,
That
Gail
People
looks
get
at
benched
it,
at the
no
end
matter
of
what
the year.
department they work for. It's not bench We just let them know that.
They can only be volunteer after
They can
that.
only do 16 hours a week for the next 11 weeks.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's looked at way early, so it doesn't become we've got nobody here to cover the last 2 weeks of December.
And I mean, it's a shame, because most of our part-time paid firefighters are full-time firefighters elsewhere, and even if they went over that, they wouldn't be like coming and say, oh, you owe me sick time.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
that's not how it works.
I understand that's not how it works, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
in the long
It's
term,
different.
like, I would never come to the town and say, well, I worked 1,010 hours, so you owe me sick time, because, I have sick time through my full-time job, I don't need it here, this is
And we
just-
run it as a per diem
You know.
schedule. You sign up for a shift, if you can't make it, you just call and say, I can't make it that day. We try to find somebody else to fill
So
it.
you guys the paid actives are part-time employees of the town. Warehouse Point are part-time employees of Warehouse Point District.
That's correct.
Not-
So if you guys add these 2 shifts, are you still going to have enough guys to be able to cover and not run into issue with hours?
We're gonna still try to fill those with the volunteer members.
We use the
Not-
volunteers at night.
Yeah,
Okay.
not tap into the staff.
I wish we would sign it. If we had to use the daytime guys at nighttime, then we would run short on guys. So we use the
If it-
volunteers,
If it came
fill that void.
to the point where we were having trouble filling it, we would probably look at hiring people just solely for that nighttime fill. To come out of the pool. That way it didn't affect our daytime coverage and the hours for those people to fill those daytime shifts. If we had trouble filling it with the volunteers, but so far we've had good luck with that and they enjoy doing it.
So conceivably, if you reached your $1,000 max under the incentive program every year, you can make an additional $15,000. And the only way they put that out, because whether it's the 15 rotating for $1,000 for 1,000 hours, times $15, that's $15,000, correct?
No, we're getting 18 an hour, so the 15 isn't even
Oh,
in there.
I thought you
So-
said you're getting 15 an hour, so you're getting $18 per hour. So that'll bring it up more.
Well, we don't,
We're not even
that would be,
close to that.
that would be what, 1,800 calls a year?
I don't know how you would do that on a
Yeah,
water call
I mean,
basis, but it comes.
At a minimum, hourly.
Call, per call, right?
Yeah.
If you had, at $18 an hour, if you had everybody who was eligible to max based on your budget max, you'd have 10 and a half guys that maxed at 18 an hour. And you've never had anybody max.
Well, they just started, so you haven't even got a year.
No, they've been doing this for
4
years.
years.
You've been doing it for 4, you had paid staff for 4 years?
4 years, yeah.
Daytime staff, yeah.
The nighttime staff we just started last year.
August.
The point of it is, I think, is that the system, the model works. The model has been used by you guys, the model's been used by Warehouse Point, so it's now just making sure that the math works, but the model has borne out.
Yeah.
Now, are the guys that you're looking to hire, are those retired firefighters from other towns? Are those firefighters within town that are going from volunteer now to paid?
The daytime staff, the part-time during the day, they're all career firemen somewhere else. They're all Hartford, New Britain, West Hartford,
Right.
Yukon,
No, I haven't.
New Haven. The ones at night are the volunteers. That could be anybody who, as long as they have their qualifications, drivers, fire one, EMR, they can do that.
Sarah?
I'd like to thank you for the work that you do. I have a lot of respect for what you do for our community as well as Warehouse Point. Seeing what's been going on in Warehouse Point for about 4 years now, do you have any feelings on how you'd like to see the double taxation issue solved, or any input that you guys have? I know you were all at the forum, and I don't know if you have any input or anything.
Let me kind of put a point on her question. Is there a consensus opinion amongst you at this point?
I don't think our opinions pretty much line up right now. I think the membership of the department is split, with a slight majority against a district option. But, you know, whatever the town puts forward, it's gonna be up to the taxpayers either way. Whether you put them back into the budget, and the people have to come out and vote that budget through, so that they're back in the budget and it evens everything out, or if you create a new district or expand it, it's all gonna be up to the taxpayers on, you know, what's gonna happen. Fire department, even though they may not be in consensus or agreement of how to go about it, it's really up to the taxpayer. And my personal opinion, not as a fire chief, but I think we need to fix that problem, because I know if it was reversed and it was the other way around, I would be upset that I would be, you know, double taxed. So, you know, I don't envy the job you guys have going forward to try and rectify the situation. You know, I'm for a district personally, either way, doesn't matter to me, that's my own opinion. And I can't speak on behalf of the department, because they've already, you know.
Well, my concern is, and I don't like to speak on rumor, but I'll speak on the written stuff that I've read under the Facebook comments that put out there, especially the recent one that Dan Starrs put out there, where it's commented that if certain things are done, then there'll be no volunteers on this side of town. They're all going to be paid volunteers, and it's going to cost the town a lot of money. I don't know if anybody else read those comments, but that's a lot of money
I don't know who's
coming forward. And I know it's not you guys, but if there's something that's hindering that original thought process that the two departments would come together as one, and we're going to review that. We're reviewing that blindsided because we don't know what caused that to cease. And we can't get, well, at least I can't get a straight answer from anyone. This one will say, well, we had one meeting and it got approved, then we had the second meeting and it didn't get approved. But something had to happen when you were so close, and now you just said tonight, that's not what you guys want to do.
I think it was just a matter of who attended
Yeah.
that meeting, you know? The majority of people that were in favor for one meeting had the ayes. And then the second meeting, there was more people that had the nays, so.
So because you guys are incorporated, and that gets thrown out there, and because I'm, you know, I've been away for a while, are incorporated, and if we come in and say, okay, we're gonna go in and we're gonna force you to merge, and I'm not saying that's what the board's doing, I'm just asking a question for myself, with Warehouse Point and the willing to take you, and then you have a meeting under your incorporation, and you guys have the second one and it's no again, where do we go from there?
Well, I don't think you could force this, because that's up to the town.
Exactly.
That's up to the town.
That's the point I'm making.
The town taxpayers have to do that.
What, we
I
can't,
think her point is if, that, you know, we don't want to, or, yeah, we don't want to roll the Broadbrook volunteers and just go right to the, we'd rather everybody sing from the same hymn. You know, that makes everything easier.
and if there's something that we can do to try to expedite that and work with both sides to do it, that would be a better start than going back and trying to figure it out through lack of documentation, and it prevents us from the rumor mill. I mean, if it's the fact that you want your separate autonomy, I can get that. I mean, you're a distinct department, they're a distinct department. But if we can come to agreement and merge you guys together, and then you come up with a 60-40 split on whatever revenues you guys bring in, so that you can work the way you currently are, autonomous, that's one thing. But if all the new hires come in are town employees, which makes sense on this side, are Warehouse Point paid firefighters town employees too?
No, they're employees of the
They're not.
But, you know, I think we're now well cart before the horse in that, you know, if the two departments were to come in and say, this is what we want to do, I think there's now that discussion that we have to have about if those employees that we would be hiring would remain ours or would become part of the district. There are a lot of details there that it's really not budget specific at this point, but.
But it will be if we're trying to rectify for this budget process. I mean, and that's one of the things we've all agreed here, we would like to rectify it during this budget cycle if at all possible, because no matter what we do, it's not gonna be a 2% budget. I don't care what we cut out, it's not gonna be a 2% budget. And if we don't do it now, and take that opportunity to do what is in the best interest, then we're never gonna resolve this, we're gonna be back here, in my term, it's gonna be up again, until we know why it's not happening. So, just food for thought, you know, maybe it's an executive session meeting that we need to sit down and talk to you guys and find out what was the issue with why the second group didn't wanna move ahead.
I think a lot of that was just a lot of bad information being spread by a few people.
And it's continuing to be spread by those
That
same
doesn't
group
happen,
people. But, you know,
Unfortunately, at that second meeting, there was, you know, I couldn't be at the meeting because I had my kids and I had nobody to watch them. Jerry was working, you know, so that the people that kind of had most of the answers weren't there. And then you had some people standing up and spreading their propaganda, and it scares people because we don't know enough about it, to be honest with you. You know, at the time, I mean, there's a few of us that know things. We're trying to get other people to see how it is, but I think a lot of the problem that you're facing is us and Warehouse Point, we're separate entities. While we operate great together and we work together great as we are, I think people don't want to see the two departments merge. They want to see them stay separate, to be their own entities. And me personally, I would say, you know, one district under one fire commissioner, but you still got the two departments and they operate the same way they're doing. That is probably the only way you're going to get both departments to agree on one thing.
but because you're incorporated in their district, we have no say over that. You know, once that happens, we'll have no say, other than the town paid firemen, that the town then gets to choose whether or not we want to continue to pay them or not.
No, you wouldn't even have that choice.
If we're under a district, we'd be.
You wouldn't even have that choice.
Yeah.
We would end up taking over those funds.
There'd be no
through
sense,
the
in-
district.
would be-
no sense in mixing it up.
Employees.
Yeah.
You're in or
Exactly,
you're
that's
out.
the point I'm making, there's no sense. So what do we have to do? Well, I guess that's another meeting. You need to set up a meeting so we can talk to these guys in executive session.
I don't think this is
It
an
all-
executive session issue.
It all boils down to.
I can't think what the protection
Go to
is.
the vote.
It is.
It
It
all
is
boils down
all
to
gonna
that.
come down to.
And like I told
that
Sarah at
financing.
that meeting, the only way you're gonna ever get the taxpayers of this town to go with the fire district is to guarantee, I don't care how you do it, is you have to guarantee that money is not gonna end up back in the budget, even if it fails referendum.
We can't do that. That's the law.
Well, then you say, okay, if it fails referendum, then the money that's in the budget will go to the fire departments and they'll tax for whatever else they need. But there's gotta be some guarantee to those
Well,
voters.
when Wales Point left the budget with a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth about that.
Well, and at that point, you know, the district would have already adopted their mill rate with OPM, so that tax rate is set, so you can't do that. This is an awful problem.
It is. It's very
That's
much a
why,
problem.
you know, we want to get it resolved before the budget cycle, and that's why I'm, you know,
I
being a
think a lot
little
of it's
bit
gonna start with
crude.
you guys, that,
Because,
you know, you have to educate the people, I mean, we have to educate the people that if we go forward with this, you guys need to vote the budget through, because if it doesn't go through, guess what? You're gonna get an
Well,
automatic 2% increase.
Again,
on
okay, so the
budget.
process is, we're doing what we're doing, goes to Board of Finance, they do whatever they want,
Right.
right? And then it goes to people get three swings at it, right?
Right.
Has nothing to do with us at that point. We're doing our part now,
No,
right?
I
So,
understand.
and then trying to get people to do stuff, Jason set up that informational meeting, got the lawyers there, got it all set up. How many people were there? We were there. It was like basically us and a few more people, right? So, you know, and then you know, okay, so we got Facebook, and then maybe you can get a JI article or two, and maybe some letters out there, but no matter what, in the end, people will be like, I didn't know anything about it. Yeah, right?
Yeah,
So,
it's unfortunate,
I mean, you
but
can't-
I'll tell you what,
it's,
you know.
we're all in it together, you can't say, well, it's up to you guys, we
No,
can't say
I'm not
it's up to
saying
you
it's not
guys.
just up to you, it's up to both departments and you guys. We gotta get the word out there. I mean, nobody ever thought you'd have 5 new Board of Selectmen sitting up here. But you guys got out there and you did what you had to do to get the word out, what's best for the town. It's almost gonna have to be the same thing, unfortunately. Otherwise, it's never gonna pass. The people are too skeptical to trust anybody at this point on passing a district and guaranteeing that the money's gonna come out of the town budget.
Everybody's afraid of district, you're gonna get taxed crazy. I gotta tell you, I just got a brand new house. I'm not looking to, you know, I'm looking to be fiscally responsible. We need what we need, but it's not gonna be fluff. I don't want my taxes to go up, just like the next guy. You or Tommy or Sarah, and nobody.
But then you guys want us, and I don't have a problem getting the word out if I know what that word's gonna be. And right now, I don't know what that word's gonna be because there's mixed things coming out of the other side of town. But thank you for you being the one that's filtering some of that stuff out. But even one of their commissioners at a meeting said something different than what was said to us from the chief of the fire department on that side. And the same thing is happening on your side. We hear you guys saying that you don't have a problem, but it's the rest that has the problem, but you couldn't make it because of babysitting and you couldn't make it. Well, postpone that meeting if you guys are the ones that are in charge that has the information to help them guys. I mean, no disrespect, and I agree family comes first, but if you're running a department, then you've got to be the vocal point for the department.
It's understandable,
help
but
us
you
out.
can't also just postpone a meeting because we're not gonna be there. There's a meeting that's set every Thursday, second Thursday of the month is a monthly meeting. And just because I'm not gonna be there or Jerry's gotta work, we can't just say, hey, guys, let's cancel the meeting and reschedule on a day where we're gonna be there. That's not the way it works. How would the public feel if you guys decided, we're just gonna cancel the Board of Selectmen meeting and we'll change it to a night, because Sarah couldn't be there?
Well, we didn't have a quorum, we would have no choice.
Right, but that's the point. We
They
would have a
still have a
quorum even
quorum.
if we're not still there.
And the other big thing is change. Change doesn't come easy, and everybody knows that. I mean, we've been the same way for almost 125 years. And to completely change our whole way of doing things scares a lot of people. There's a lot of unknown there, unknown certainties. The district has been a district for 100 years. They're not really changing much. We never were a district. We've always been, most of the time, by ourselves. I mean, up till the 60s, we got nothing for the town. We funded ourselves. Our first fire truck came from the town in 1980. That was before we bought all of our own trucks, do carnivals, fundraisers, everything else.
You paid for fire trucks with carnivals?
Yes.
Back when carnivals.
Back in the day.
And that was before.
Hey, Jerry, how's the carnival coming? You working on that?
Yeah, it's not worth it.
So
You make $2,000.
change is hard, and a lot of people are afraid of change. And I'm sure you guys see that in what you guys do up here.
So a question for you, if we were to put $617,000 back in for Warehouse Point, and we take all of the expenses here and anything else that's in other parts of the budget, and we added this out there in the budget right now is gonna go up 13%.
About 15 when all is in.
Well, one of it is done, I'm saying 13 plus the additional, you figure about 15%.
That's before the
Plus-
school spends any money.
Right, and before this part of the budget is done. So let's conceivably, let's throw it out there, a 3% budget goes out there, plus the 18, that's a 21% budget. And I haven't done the math yet, but do you really think the townspeople are gonna agree to a 21% budget?
I didn't say they would.
But either way, you're gonna pay for it. And if we go district, it's gonna be the same difference. If it's $1 million in the town budget, $1 million district budget, it's still $1 million coming from the taxpayers.
Right, but if we do that, and the town comes together, and we get them to do that, and let's just say, clouds open up and everybody's in agreement, we're gonna bite the bullet this year to do that. And then you guys say, hell no, we had a meeting and that's not happening.
It's still not up to us, though.
It's not up to
It's
us.
nothing to do with us. It's up to
Has
the
nothing to do with
townspeople.
the
It
department.
has nothing to do with
The
that.
taxpayers have got to vote it in. not
We
the
could
fire
sit there-
department.
Really,
Yeah,
has
sit
nothing
there
to do
and
with
pound
us either. It's really all townspeople.
We could
Right.
sit there and
For
pound our
it to be-
fists and say,
for
we
it to
don't
be
ever want to have a
initiated
district.
And to
Doesn't
follow
matter.
through with it is all townspeople. All we can do is suggest it. We can't even make it happen. That's us as a board.
The fire department could be 100% for it, go uptown and vote and vote it out. Same difference.
Or we could sit here and pound our fists and say, no, absolutely, we don't want to be a district.
And the town people
And
vote
the
no.
town, great.
Yeah,
The
well,
town
it doesn't
enforces
matter.
it.
It doesn't matter what we really want, it's up what the town people want. I mean, if they voted through, we have to work what they want.
I mean, I know we have Warehouse Point's presentation on Thursday night, and I know it's up to the taxpayers, but it really doesn't set a good precedence if we're giving Warehouse Point 0 and we're funding Broadbrook at 532, you know? I mean, it does start with this board, in my opinion. We need to
agree on
say
But
what's
it
important to
doesn't
us.
fix the problem because they're still paying on the other side of town also. That's the problem. I mean, you can Band-Aid this all you want, and it doesn't fix the initial problem, and they're always going to be overpaying on the other side of town.
Well, if you listen to what the lawyer said, it takes 15 people to make a petition, send it to a, whatever, a referendum, I guess it is. The one district
It's a town meeting.
Uh,
A town
Petition
meeting.
to town meeting.
But, you know, we worked hard on that charter to set up that townwide district, and I thought it was well-written. We all took a lot of time into, you know, making it fair for both sides, and, you know, so that everybody kept their own kind of structure on their side. It really only joined the commission, which I thought was the right way to go with it, and, you know, it really shocked me that it was turned down so, you know, the way it was when, you know, I thought it was fair for both sides.
The whole thing was, is that was just the wrong process. I mean, building the charter was right, but the process is what we're talking about doing this year, right? That's the process. 15 people, starting it out, a vote by the Warehouse Point to expand, and a
Yes,
vote
and
by Broadbrook to join that expansion, or to have a second one, either, you know, whatever.
And we kind of knew that back then, Alan, too, but we figured that it would be an incentive to both sides if there was a structure already laid out to show them that things wouldn't change much for them. That really all that would change for them was where their money came from, not the structure within their department, and guys losing jobs,
And where that fell apart was you had people spreading false rumors.
and that's-
And unfortunately, it got around to enough people and they said, oh, you know, no, never mind, we don't want to do this, you know? And that's just, unfortunately, that's just where it ended up.
But it still isn't, it can go forward with the town. I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody wants, even, like I said before, even if we voted yes, the town people could still vote down.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could be against it and they could vote for it.
Right.
Well, a petition with 15 Broadbrook signatures on it would look really good.
Well, that's the other thing, is if the process were to move forward without the acquiescence of the Broadbrook Fire Department, how does that leave the governance? Because we're not adopting the charter, we're not affecting the charter, we're simply discussing either establishment of a special service district or expansion of the existing fire district. So those interdepartment issues are not going to be resolved by voters. The town, if there is a vote, isn't voting on your governance structure.
Right.
No, they're just voting
Yeah.
on whether or not they want to give us what we asked for funds.
But that second vote was also the setup of the district
Commissioners,
members and the directors, I think it termed them, right? And
This is the lawyer had said, the second
Yeah,
meeting
some
would
structure
be
to it.
would be
The
the
name.
whole, setting up the whole thing.
And then, and those would be voted on by the people at that meeting, therefore they have the say in who they want to run the
Right.
show. So, I mean, I think should be a comfort to people that they have a say in how it's going to be organized. But then again, leaves a lot to be, discovered later.
I mean, if it went forward as an expansion, we've already got the document. That part's already done.
But it's not a
And I-
document that's agreed to.
Plus, the district has to.
It's not that it wasn't agreed to, there was just no interest in following through.
Well, the way the lawyer said it was the people have to agree on that charter too. Was that the way I understood that?
Yeah, I understood that.
And a name change as well, and a name
Right.
as well.
But I mean,
But like he
the
said,
hard work,
it's-
so to speak,
It's
is
done,
done.
it's,
you know.
you could use that, you could present
You
that
could,
to
yeah.
the people.
And
and
make-
say,
The second
this is
meeting
what
would-
we've set
The
up.
second meeting would be for
Right.
that,
Yeah.
according to the lawyer that night.
Yep.
Or the second meeting or third meeting, something like that. That's right, if it was a district expansion, it would probably be 3 meetings, right?
Yeah, because first is.
Well,
They'd have to
we have
expand this.
the process,
Yeah.
the attorney provided us with the process for it to be done. The question still is, which path is the most acceptable one to the most people involved.
Well, it would be better for the citizens if it was an expansion, because then everybody shares in the cost of both departments.
But you still
grant
cannot
us.
guarantee the funding reduction. And that's a confidence in government thing where we can't promise that because we don't ultimately have control over it.
The other benefit is
I'm struggling with that piece of it because I can't promise people something I can't do.
Well, that's being worked on in another avenue, and hopefully that'll be done sooner than later. But again, that's going to be based upon a referendum by the public too.
Which piece is this?
The
For
2%.
2% of
Oh,
the
talking about
charter.
the charter change, yeah. I don't even know that that's what the recommendation is going to be.
We don't need it. Right. So we got to work with what we have, and we currently have a 2%.
With our budget, the 532, actually, it would be more than that backed out of the budget.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Probably another 100,000
100,000.
Yeah.
added on to that.
Speaking, I did have one question on this. Chris, I asked Joe the other day if his gas proposal budget to us on Public Works included fire trucks and police cars, and I could have swore he said yes.
No.
He did, I thought he did say yes.
He did say yes.
He did say yes.
And now in here, we've got another vehicle and gas of
We've
$52,000.
And
always-
I think I tried to clarify that.
They pay back.
Right.
They
Right,
get
they
it,
get
they get
charged
it under
out.
our rate, and then it gets
Warehouse Point
reimbursed.
gets charged theirs, Broadwood gets charged theirs. People get charged out. So even though they're all happening at the town garage, and
Yeah.
there's a report that comes out, it then gets split.
Right.
Okay.
So they
So
budget,
the police
It's
is
charged
in
against
town
each
properties.
different account.
Right.
I understand that. So
But not
what
fire
is Joe,
services.
is all that money that Joe's putting on, or that Lenny has on his, is all
School
trucks,
vans,
school vans?
trucks,
Plows.
senior vans, not
Yeah.
school.
Right,
No school side,
Right.
just town.
right.
It's their plows, it's the police cruisers, it's the senior vans, it's any of the town property cars like here,
Yeah,
the building official.
okay.
So the fire services and Warehouse Point are the only two pieces that are broken out. Everything else is in town properties.
Okay.
We just get gasoline, we have our own diesel tank.
right. And they reimburse the town for whatever that usage is. And they do that because they can get the cheaper
Right.
gas price for the entire entity of the town, which makes sense. I wouldn't want that to
Right.
change.
Other comments?
Well, appreciate your time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
No
Thanks
problem.
for what you
Hoping
guys
you were
do.
able to
How's
shed
that
some
app
light.
working?
How's what?
The app working?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I hear the tones on either side go off, it's the first thing I reach for is to figure out kind of
What's going on?
Well,
Even at 3 in the morning?
He has one. He has
Just
one.
wait till the
He can
morning
call
to
us,
see
he has
what you
one on
missed.
his phone.
Okay.
depends on the night. If it goes off twice, I'm up. I'm a little gun shy now after the whole Mill Pond thing. I'm pretty aware of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like it though. It's a good way to keep track of things that are going on. You also see some residences that are really repeat customers.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot.
Yes.
I still think, I've suggested this on the Rouse Point side, that an ordinance should be set on that as well.
I thought there was an
No,
ordinance.
that's not the issue. We talked about that, but it's usually
an
it's
ordinance
medical
for-
response.
But an ordinance for, see, like on Rouse Point, we get false alarms, like for the children's place, kids pulling the.
You can't
But
charge the
there's
state,
an
you can't
ordinance.
charge the state for that.
I know.
But there is an ordinance for that, isn't there?
There is an ordinance for that, and there is a
Police
police that can
department.
be collected if it goes off so many times.
Yes,
then
the
they
police
gotta
department
pay
does
a
too.
fee.
But you can't go after a state-owned property though.
No,
Right.
but if you had, someone else who had, a fire system that calls, an ADT system in their home, and you go for 2 false alarms, 3 false alarms a year, that the second and third should be charged, as a fine.
The only thing I agree with that, I disagree with some of that, because say if you have a problem with your alarm, it does go off a couple times a year, if you actually have a fire, you may not get notified. That's the only thing I worry about, that whole,
Like people who don't replace their alarms.
you cry wolf, and all of a sudden,
Yeah,
you
you have a
actually
real-
have something,
yeah.
and so it's like a double-edged sword with that, I think.
Anything else for the Rubber Fire Department leadership?
Yeah, I apologize if I come off curt or anything, that wasn't my intention,
that's
but I
okay.
have trouble projecting sometimes, so it just comes off that way. And I do have a lot of respect for you guys, but for us to do our job and for the townspeople to be asked to do something to help us and to try to move this forward, we have to be able to all be on the same page. And when comments are being made, they have to be unified, so that if wrong information is going out there, and once you know it's going to, then those that are involved need to be selling the same message, or don't comment. Vote how you wish at the voting poll, but we're never going to resolve it if we can't unite somehow. So, that's all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Robert Library.
Yeah.
Your brother.
Thank you.
Well, you've got one of the rare distinctions of having your budget is proposed to be fully intact.
Thank you.
No, actually, I'm gonna revise it.
That's not my fault.
Oh, sorry. I had to apologize. Well, some of you have those. I ran out. Okay,
Take,
I had scout hall ones. I didn't know that. My mistake.
Tab 5.
Okay. But let me give you the latest version of it, which, by the way, the budget itself didn't change, but our bank balances did, so I'm trying
This
to...
is the new version?
The budget's identical. Okay.
I'll just hand them to me, I'll pass it down, so you don't have to, you can get a couple.
What do we got? Two.
One more.
Can't write it. That's the right one. There you go. Fine. Thanks. Okay. So, the only thing that changed is our bank balances. Everything else is the same. I think you have our history from last year. Our budget request, obviously, and you had some bank balances, but I wanted you to have current. Just, they're gonna change again. They do that. I'm not gonna keep doing that, but I just want to keep you up to date. On the budget sheet itself, the only thing that's changed there is I took off the bathroom repairs because it's done. So that was number, I don't know, under notes, number 11 or something. So I took that out because we did it, it's over.
The hot water heater for the bathroom sink?
Yeah, all that's in, yeah. So, not running yet because the electrician hasn't shown up, but that's okay.
So your ask was 25,000, right?
Yeah, I haven't changed that at all. And I want to, okay. So, we've been waiting for a couple of years for a ramp on the driveway side of the library, and I'm hoping to get that done this year. It is an Eagle Scout project, and it's taken a little bit longer to get that processed than I wanted, but it's for Billy Grant, and as far as I'm concerned, whatever it takes, it'll be the right thing to do. Okay, so it's his Eagle project, and I really want him to make Eagle. Of anything that could ever happen, I want that to happen. But I'm trying to get it done this year. And one of the things we're going to be working on is a 100th anniversary party sometime in May or June. Early March, we've got a Board of Trustees meeting, and we're going to be working on that project. I think it's important. Hopefully, an all-day event, outdoors, and maybe a couple of food trucks, and I'm going to be talking to a group in East Hartford that I always have trouble with this. They have a portable World War II museum, and they did stop by our library one day, and they were very impressed with our military things that we have on the shelf, our organized books, and they volunteered to do something for us, so I'm gonna take them up on it and try and make it part of that whole event to attract more people. They have some kind of a trailer they bring in, and oh, great, come on down. So I'm working on trying to get that put together, so if we're gonna have a party, number one, I wanna have lots of reasons for people to come to the library. So that's our real goal. Of course, there's a lot of things we'd like to do that we're not doing, like pay the librarian, because currently we can't afford it, but we want to do it. It's appropriate. Minimum wage, which is a moving target this year. Thank you.
Will be for the next 3.
And, yeah, and that's okay, we know that. Today negotiated with Frontier for our telephone and internet, and I got a 2-year fixed rate exactly as it is now, which is a pretty good deal. So we know for the next 2 years, that's a stable expense, and I really wanted that. Obviously, some things are variable. The sewer user charge will be probably a little bit more than this, but
You don't know a guy?
sorry, but the rate won't be set until May, so I don't know what the rate will be yet. We're still working on our budget, so, yeah. Budget season is everybody's budget season. So in any case, I think, you've got the data, so I'm happy to answer questions. We're certainly busy, I will tell you that.
Is your internet and telephone the same provider?
Yeah, it's all Frontier, yes. I separated it out because on the income side, you'll see that the Chamber of Commerce pays for the internet. Because that was part of the deal of having them move into the library. They would pay for the internet because they needed it. And we needed it too, we just couldn't afford it, so now we have it and it's paid for. And that makes it better for, obviously, everybody. We don't have a computer for the public set up yet, because we physically haven't figured out where we're gonna put one, but we are going to do it. And, but people bring their own. So we have quite a few people bring in their notebooks and stuff, and there it is, you're all set. And we have printing services, so they can do that, which happens fairly often. Let's see, what else is going on? I don't know, we buy books constantly. You can see that in our, I think you got all our expenses, income and expenses. I don't know, who's part of the package? Okay, good. So we buy books, people want them, that's what they're there for. And they certainly come in and take them out, and that's an important factor, so. And we get a lot of donations of books. I would say we've gotten people more or less on board of what a donation ought to be. We have gotten a lot of donations of books that we've had to find a way to recycle. However, well, duplicates and or not in condition for lending could be owned by somebody, things like that, or the small paperbacks. We don't want them. They just take up space and nobody will read them. The type's too small, they're too uncomfortable, and they don't last long enough. But we have a deal with the Veterans Administration. We box up books that are usable, and we pick up the phone, and they will come and pick them up. And so we put out a skid, usually with 10, 15 boxes of books, and cover it up on a tarp, and they come out on a Friday, and they go down to Newington and Rocky Hill, and they put them out, and veterans pick them up, and I've been down there watching them. They just pick up books and they go home. It's a great service. It's better than dumping them on Allied Attic or somebody who's gonna be stuck with them trying to turn them into pennies. Here, they actually go somewhere, and that's worked out well. We try to take advantage of those services. We're also getting high school students to stop in to do community service work that they're required to do. We have plenty of work for people. We work with a card file system, and it isn't exactly flawless, and they're very good at helping us sort that out, and also reorganizing books on the shelf. And we're going to come up with more projects. The weather's going to change. It's going to get nicer. We'll have outdoor projects. We're going to have a lot of projects. So that's a good thing. So that's pretty much our story, other than we try to provide a good service to the town.
Any questions or comments for Paul?
So that roof fund, that's what it has, $4,992?
No, that is a goal to put in it.
Oh, for the year.
Yeah,
How much is in it?
nothing.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm good.
No other questions or comments?
How do I get off this easy? It's never happened.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your support.
Ladies of the Warehouse Court Library, please come on down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the general library services for everybody. And everybody has the budget there, I hope, the budget that we put in here? Okay, good. And we have money from the town, which is very important, and we need that very badly. And we do a lot of work, we do a lot of children's programs, it's about 3 a week. We have adult programs and so on. We have internet, and we have Freegal, which people can download music. We have Overdrive, where people can download audio and ebooks. And we have Job Now, which gives a lot of help with resumes, with training, and with looking for jobs. And those are things that we have online, in addition to children's books and adult books and DVDs and audio books and graphic novels and all the things that people are looking to read. This year, we had planned, the board had planned and completed a renovation to repaint the offices and the workrooms and replace some carpeting. And they had planned to replace 8 leaky and hazardous windows because somebody was washing the windows and they were so old and the glass was loose and they actually cut themselves. So those windows were replaced in the original house that was the original library. And that has saved a lot on heat, we think. And those were our planned upgrades for this past year. Unexpectedly, of course, we had to replace the foundation and the porch there. The porch looks more like it did historically, but the purpose of that was because the water had washed down and washed into the basement, and the stacked foundation of stone had been washed into the basement. wasn't good for holding up that corner, you know. And the other one was part of the heating system failed, and money, we did repair those things. Money was taken out of the investments in addition to the amount that we usually take out of for the operating budget. We had to take out extra for those unexpected repairs this year. We work with a lot of library organizations that help fund libraries and provide services for libraries. Library Connection is the consortium that we belong to, which is, I think, 42 libraries around here and in this section of Connecticut that work together to have an online catalog together and to share materials with each other. So that if somebody's looking for something that we don't have, we can usually get it in a week or so from one of those other libraries in Library Connection. We also work with the Connecticut Library Consortium, and what they do is they negotiate discounts on books so that when we buy books from Baker and Taylor, new books for the library, we normally get about a 40% discount, which is very good. The Connecticut State Library has databases and so on that are available at the library that we use and are paid for by state funds, and we have access to them through the Connecticut Education Network that connects schools and libraries. We also apply for E-rate funding to help fund the internet service to connect to that through the state. And I just finished that state request shortly ago. So, but there's different sections through the year, but the main thing was just done. And then we also use TechSoup for any hardware, software that we buy, which gives a discount to nonprofits. So those are the ways that we save money. We do get grants from the East Windsor Lions and the Hartford Foundation from Public Giving also. And
Annually? You get Hartford Foundation money annually?
No. well,
not
there's a-
annually.
No, they run there's a Shortman Fund. and I
The
believe-
Shortman Fund is the one we do get annually,
And
and
it's
that's
been-
for children's books.
And that's been designated to come to East Windsor, I believe. that
Is
money.
is that
And that's-
also
It's
Hartford
not a-
Foundation?
It's
That's in the Hartford
It's in the Hartford
Foundation.
Foundation, but it's, how much is it a year that we get from that?
Like $1,700
$100 a year
for children's
for
books,
children's books.
which is
That's
good.
good.
Yeah. And what it was is a family made an endowment in the Hartford Foundation and designated that that money would go to us for books. So that we do get every year out of the Hartford Foundation.
Is that Bernie Shortman?
Yes.
No
I believe
kidding.
so. Mhm.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
He was
where would
first
that be?
selected in 1946.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, right. And it's been going for that long, you know, and the library has been using it. Now,
No pressure, Jay.
yes,
I see the narrative there, but in your anticipated income, where would those funding, where would you see that, the Lions Club and the Hartford Foundation?
Grants?
Could-
Oh,
would
no.
that,
in those grants,
Because
yeah,
there's only $400 listed there, right?
that's the state of Connecticut, which
Yep,
is the
no, I'm saying,
CEN.
I understand
But we
that,
don't
but I'm
That's part
saying,
of the annual fund, where it says annual fund.
so the East Windsor Lions Club and the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving is under the annual fund?
Right.
Right,
those
because we
are
don't
the-
know yearly how much the Lions Club is going to give us. so
Right,
we
but
have
you
to
said you
count
get
it.
Right.
17,
1,700 of
oh,
that
1,700, okay.
is from the
So
short.
that would be under the annual fund drive, okay.
Right, right, that's
All right.
like donations that we get.
Right, I
including
understand
those
that.
other
And we put it there because
things
most of
that's
that goes to books.
Okay.
in there. Right. What we're asking for is in the green there at the end, which would be a 6% increase. And what we'd like to do is start meeting some of the standards for the state of Connecticut. And this shows you where we stand. I'll give you some of those and then I'll...
Do you have those
These are-
already?
Yes.
these are the
Oh, you
packets.
do have,
yes.
Oh, you have.
Unless they've
Okay,
changed
good.
since you.
No, they have not.
presented.
Okay, great. They're
These
on.
were the new 219 ones. I got them right before I gave them to you the other week. And it shows where we stand, like operating revenue per capita for us is $33.54. That includes the money that we get from the town and the other money that we have coming in, the operating revenue. Now, the average of chosen population range, I chose 12 libraries with the same population range that serve close to 11,350 people. I chose 6, the next 6 that were higher and the next 6 that were lower. So those are libraries our same size. And then the third one, the $55, is the average statewide, $55 per capita for libraries. So our funding is behind here, and we're rated in terms of funding 164th out of 177 public libraries. So we're well in that bottom 10% of libraries in terms of funding. Then the municipal appropriation is in there, and for us it's 70%. The chosen population range 83, and then 86% on average. So many libraries do get funding from other grants and from other donations and that kind of thing. Now, underneath that, the Community Commitment Index. And what that's saying is that they're asking the town to meet this. They're asking the towns, the money for the library, to be equal to 1% is the standard of the municipal revenue, of the money coming into the town. They would like to see 1% of that going to the library. And that includes the money that's not from the town. It includes the money that the library has on its own or from its endowments and so on. But we're at 0.85, so, 85% of 1% is what we have. And we'd like to bring that up to 1%. And that 1% is the lowest funding standard in terms of, and I put for you also, best practices in Connecticut libraries. Did you get that?
We do.
Yes.
Okay. And there's in there 3 funding standards in order to make the essential benchmark standards. There's essential, enhanced, and exemplary. We're just worried about essential. Okay, and those essential benchmarks are $50 per capita, $3 for materials per capita, and 1% is the Community Commitment Index. That's the one we're closest to making. That's of that standard that we would like to move up to. And you can see that we do meet standards there, some of those standards, but not the funding standards. And then when you go to the last page of this, these are the benchmarks for the library's accounting uses their funds judiciously and in compliance with required fiscal procedures. So we're in compliance with good fiscal handling through there is what that shows. But we'd like to get an increase in our funding up to that 1% community commitment. And because we don't have the funding, on the second page of this, you can see we have fewer employees on average. So 1 full-time person instead of 3.4 full-time people for a town of 11,500. $1.38 for materials, and the libraries near us, it's $4.72. And $15.48 in wages as opposed to 26 for libraries in our chosen range. So that's what we're asking for.
So this is just a question as we're looking at chart stuff. The operating revenue per capita is $33.54 per resident.
Right.
Your materials per capita is $1.38 and the wages is $15.48. So where's the other $17 per capita go?
Oh, these, the materials per capita and the wages and salaries per capita, the rest goes to building and heat and light and cleaning and.
That's more than half your budget?
I think it is, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Audit alone is, I think, $10,000 for audit alone.
Oh, the audit,
The
yeah,
audit
because we
is-
have to get the
you have to pay for
yearly
the audit.
audit.
Is over, it's like,
Yeah.
that,
That,
yeah. I don't know if we put that in separately, but our audit costs, professional accounting.
oh, it's under legal
Yeah,
down here,
professional,
$11,000.
$11,000.
The audit is in the legal,
Yeah.
even though it's accounting
You're
and.
paying $11,000 for your audit?
I think anywhere between eight, so I think it was like 10, between 8 and 10,000, I
When
don't
was the last
remember
time you went
exactly.
out to RFP?
We have it done every year, our audit. We do a full, complete audit that you should have received because we turn it in. But we do a
Yeah, it
complete,
gets turned into the town clerk.
yeah, we do a complete whole audit, big audit,
I do a fire district and the audit is $6,000 a year.
yeah.
And that's 3 fire stations. So I think you're probably paying too much money.
Is it a complete audit? We don't do a minimal audit. We do
No,
it
it's complete.
We're not.
And we only pay
bad
$40,000 for the whole
We're
town.
not doing it.
And that's the town and the school for our
For the
audit.
fire districts and
So you guys are paying high for your audit.
I guess so.
Well, either we're paying too high or that includes.
That wasn't
something
plugged.
that we're not.
Right.
Right. 'Cause I
You should
know-
really look through your bill for your audit.
I know that we, well, our treasurer would have that, but
Right, and she's not here in the winter, so she's in Florida for the
Right.
winter.
Call her up.
well, we could.
We do that all the
We
time.
could, yeah.
Any questions or comments?
But that's good to know. Thank you. We'll
You
look
got
and
something. I know you
double
do.
check that.
Good. Really?
I have a question, I have two questions. Do you keep track of usage of number of people that come into the
Oh,
library?
yes.
Um,
And part of what we do is we do an annual report for the state of Connecticut. So all of these statistics come out of the state Connecticut Library statistics.
But
And that includes all the money that we spend and how many people come to programs, how much we buy for materials, how many books are checked out, how many books we have. There's a whole statistical report that we do every year.
These graphs are, based upon what you chose, 6 below and 6 above. I get all these graphs.
These come
But
from the
do you-
Connecticut State Library statistics.
I thought you said you choose the 6 above and the 6 below.
Well,
Towns to compare against.
right, if you line up all the towns that put in state reports, all the libraries
Right, you
that put
take-
in state reports, I took the 12 that were closest to us in size.
Right, you said 6
The
below
size of the
and 6 above.
Right.
Yeah, but socioeconomically, we don't compare at all.
That's what I'm saying. That's where I'm going with that. And we may not even compare when it comes to usage. They may have a much greater usage in those other towns for the library than we do. Do you do any comparisons with those towns also?
Yes, there are comparisons of usage in that.
I don't see it broken
I cut
out
out
anywhere.
part of it.
It's not in here. It's
in
in our
this-
annual report.
It's in the big,
Could we get that?
it's in the full
Or
report.
could I get that? Thank you.
One of the things we've noticed when we were discussing usage is that our usage is low because we can't afford the materials that would require us to allow more programming. So like if you're looking at programs, we have to cut off, let's say, we just recently had a program. We could only bring in 25 people because the cost of materials is such that we can't afford materials for more than 25 participants. So it becomes like cyclical in a way. I mean, we can only afford this much, so we can only have many people come to programs. So we have to limit the number of people, so we can't offer 2 programs. So we start again, our usage is low because
And
we
I
can
get
only
that, so
offer.
they
And it's
do,
the same
they
thing
do
with
the same thing
materials.
with the senior center. They don't offer enough programs so people go to Enfield or Woodloch. I
But
get
it's not that we don't offer, we offer a program.
But
But we can only
unlimited amount.
limit how many people
I
can come
understand
based
that.
on the money we have to pay.
And now,
for it.
now you're saying that you're looking to bring us up to the
Essential
1%,
standards.
the
Right.
essential
Right.
standards.
Mhm.
And I'm assuming these numbers you put here above the $50 per capita based upon the population to bring us up to essential standards is gonna be 569.
That's the best practices guide that you're looking at.
Oh,
That's not
no,
our
you know what?
publication.
I gave you,
But she's checked them that they're not being met in here. So in order to
Right.
meet them, this is what they're saying, these are all these X's, I'm assuming, after I read it, that's what's
That's
gonna-
correct.
So that's what's gonna take to bring us up to standard.
That's what it would
Which
take.
is 1.5 times what your total budget is this year.
Right, so we're not going to meet that standard, and we're not going to meet that standard. We're just trying to
Right.
meet this one at the bottom. But I, in fact, gave you the wrong copy. I should have given you this copy.
All right, so I'll take
instead
this
of that
copy then.
one. Okay. Or I guess you have the one, oh, no, you have the one that I gave to Jason before, so.
So are
I-
you saying this isn't correct?
No, it is correct.
It is
Okay.
correct.
It is
Fine.
correct.
It just didn't have the, it didn't have the
Just this
math
bottom.
calculator
Right,
just this
for it.
bottom.
Right.
Well, this one,
Okay.
I
Thank
put
you.
the calculations on the
The-
other one, right.
this answers this charted question here for us. Which,
Right.
if you go out and ask, when you go out and say 1%, to bring it to standard has a different connotation than going out and saying we need an additional $519,000 in
Well,
order to
that's-
bring them up.
That's what the total.
When we can't get 617
Right.
for a fire department.
But that number there is what the total funding for the library would need to be
Right.
if we were going to spend $50 per person. So that's a higher standard
Right.
than we're looking for at all.
Right, so it's just that very bottom standard.
Right.
Thank you for noticing that.
Any other questions or comments?
Just on a ballpark figure, do you know how many books are taken out in a week or in a month or?
Well, it was, for last year, it was just about almost 32,000. So divide that by 52.
It's 100 a day. Is it 100 a day or is it 10 a day? Math.
No,
Maybe help me out.
32,000, it's a more than 100 a day, yeah. Yeah, books are taken out, so.
Thank you.
Well, right, because you're not open 365.
Okay,
Anyway,
Amy's
do
turn.
do you
She's got it
offer, or are there public
We're not open.
libraries that offer memberships to things like LexisNexis or JSTOR or academic search tools?
Well, JSTOR is mostly for academic libraries. It's usually college libraries and other academic libraries, not usually public libraries. What we have in terms of looking for articles and research and those kind of things are from the things from the state of Connecticut, which was back in that third one, because the state of Connecticut buys a section of those for all the public libraries, and all the public libraries share it. And those are the research, this Research It Connecticut is what they've named it now. That's databases with research articles and so on in it that you go through the library catalog for.
And would I need to be in the library in order to use that, or can I access that on your
No, you can do
website?
that from home. You can go through the website and use the catalog from home. and
With your
look for
library
articles
card.
for that.
With my wife's library card. Actually, no, mine's current. Mine's current, hers is expired, she's got to renew hers.
Right, right. And the online journals and magazines are in through that too, from the state, and other newspaper articles and that kind of thing.
So Jason, it's 88 items a day, if you do 365.
Oh, but we're not open
pretty close,
365 days.
365.
East
But we're not
Windsor,
open
man.
365 days a year. So probably closer to 100.
Mr.
We're not
Bourbakis
open
would be proud.
365. Yeah, oh, yeah,
You had him, right?
I did.
As a packet?
No. Now you're kidding.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I've decided I'm gonna have fun with you. You're sitting too close is what it is. Alan's lucky he's a seat. Any other questions or comments?
I'll just say that the bar graphs that you gave us, it felt like the same ones I was looking at in 2011, 2013 were the lowest on the chart. So at least
We're not quite the lowest.
On
164
that
out of 177.
Broadbrook.
Well, now, only the libraries that are registered with the state and do the annual report are in there. So, Broadbrook is not.
No.
Where can that be accessed? Is there a certain website or?
It's Connecticut State Library Statistics. It's in the Connecticut State Library, and you're looking for library statistics.
Okay, thank you.
And there's several pages. There's a lot of tabs at the bottom, and it lists all the libraries that are registered with the state.
Thanks.
So I think the only two departments that I left unaffected in my recommendations were the two libraries. So the funding requests that came forward for both are what they asked for.
Well, we appreciate that.
Good.
That's what he submitted, just
I know, Ron
clarification.
thanking him.
Very good. Good.
We'll see how long it lasts,
Now,
but I mean, that's to Alan's point and Sarah's, that we have not done a good job in this space over time, and it's an attempt to at least put a spotlight on that, saying that we should.
Right. Now,
Long way to go.
later this month, on Saturday morning, we have Curtis Brand playing the guitar and doing folk music. And on a Wednesday evening, we have Mary Ann coming to speak about the 19th Amendment and the struggle for women to get the vote.
What's the date on
Very
that?
important thing. It's the
February
last
26th.
Wednesday in February, February 26th.
Of course.
Thank you.
Of course.
It's
Oh, is
on
that-
it's
Is
in
that
our
what you
bulletin.
mean, the last
Go
Wednesday?
online.
No, Alan and I are gonna be in Iceland.
Oh, well, that's
Iceland.
nice too.
Wow, nice.
That's awesome.
My wife would have loved to have gone to that program though. You know, the 19th Amendment stuff is
Yeah.
very near and dear to her.
You'll
As it should be.
you'll love Iceland too, although when I went, every single day, rain, sleet, and snow, rain, sleet, and snow, rain, all of them every day.
It looks like so far that it's going to be pretty decent, about the same weather that we're having.
Oh, okay.
Awesome, we'll have a great time hiking.
That could change, of course,
All
but
that kind of stuff.
We're going to a wedding, actually.
Are you going to a
Oh,
wedding?
Weekday.
Nice.
David King is getting married?
Oh, I remember David
I
King.
remember David King.
so yeah,
Me too.
everybody's making a little vacation out of it as well. So,
That's great.
Nice.
because how often are you
Very
going to go to Iceland?
Exactly.
Well, be sure
And
you
he
go in
chose
the heated
Iceland.
spot there.
We're
That's
doing
really
that,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. And into the ice caves is cool. But you drive along the road there and you see like these tropical blue ponds. And what they are is they're hot water cooling up. So the place is snow all around. A foot from the pond, it's snow, but it's hot water in there. And you can even burn yourself in that there.
Be careful. Thank you very much.
That was your warning.
Very much.
So, is there any public participation? Seeing no public, we'll waive public participation. Our next agenda item would be adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Moved and seconded, all in favor of adjournment at 6:54?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Closed. You can stay. And overruled.
It's not debatable, but I always wondered what happens, like, if that motion.
I want to know. Where do you go from here? I'm sitting, and you would record what I said.
Covered on the agenda.
Yeah, and I missed the whole motion, but I didn't.
So it was
Made by